Today, I'd like to talk to the audience about the lack of clear communication in relationships. I'd like to explain to everyone that regardless of the type of relationships one might have with another person, we need to understand that everyone interprets things differently, which means things will get lost in translation. In various relationships throughout the various facets of our lives, has there ever been a situation where miscommunication has occurred? If so, this is an example of the lack of clear communication in your relationships. My name is Alexander Burton, and I would like to explain the importance of the communication process as well as the importance of clear communication in our relationships. By doing so, this can go a long way to making our lives easier. And with that said, I'd like to hand out some information to the audience. Miscommunication may stem from the lack of communication skills one may possess. To resolve the issue, we will first learn about communication and the 5 questions communication confronts us with. Communication is a continuous, transactional process involving participants who occupy different but overlapping environments. You may ask yourself who communicates? Well, that's easy. That would be the sender and the receiver. The sender is the one that creates the message that is sent to the receiver. And the receiver is the person who accepts the message. You may ask yourself what is communicated. As I previously stated, it is the message. Messages are sent from the sender to the receiver, often communicating information to one another. Where does communication take place? It takes place in the environments. Environments are fields of experience which lead the people to make sense of behaviors. Why they communicate? They communicate to attend to a variety of needs which include physical, identity, and social needs. How do they communicate, you may ask? Through 3 forms of communication: impersonal, interpersonal, and mediated communication. And it's a well-known fact that the most used form of mediated communication is via your cell phone. Now that we understand the process of communication, we can tackle the bigger issue, which is the lack of clear communication in relationships. Miscommunication simply is an unavoidable part of our lives. In order to decrease the likelihood of misinterpretation or miscommunication, we simply need to communicate in a respectful manner with one another so that each party knows exactly what we mean, meaning that there's a smaller chance that they may misinterpret what we have said. People who argue are effectively 10 times more likely to live and enjoy happier relationships than those who sweep the difficult issues under the rug. It's important to understand how to handle conflict in your relationship. You need to manage your thoughts, affirm before you complain, start with the facts, be tentative but honest with the other parties involved, and invite dialogue between all parties involved. Miscommunication is currently responsible for ruined relationships in both your personal and professional lives. This causes many people a great deal of stress and can be prevented by communicating clearly your opinions to each other. By communicating clearly, we need to think about what we want to say as well as how we feel when we say it. We need to be clear about what we want to communicate to the other party. We need to be clear about the message so that all parties understand what you mean when you say it. We need to talk about how we feel, and we need to share positive feelings about the relationships that we share with one another. Another important form of communication is nonverbal communication, and that says a lot through your body language. Various forms are body posture, tone of voice, facial expressions which convey messages to others without us even knowing. Often feelings don't fit with our words, and when that happens, 9 out of 10 times nonverbal communication is the form of communication that's heard by the other party. You also need to be a good listener in order to fix your miscommunication. When listening, you need to lean towards the party that is speaking. You need to maintain a relaxed posture. You need to be aware of physical barriers such as noise, such it could be the television, people trying to talk over each other. You need to also show genuine interest in what the person is saying. Ask for feedback about your listening. That always helps. You also want to sit or stand on the same level of medium with the other party that's speaking to you. That way you're not looking up or down at them. And you need to face the person speaking to show that they have your full undivided attention. Clear communication can be learned. We first need to question ourselves with what causes conflict in our relationships, what brings us a sense of connection or happiness in the relationship, and what causes us the greatest disappointment and pain in our relationship. What things don't we talk about often are the things that hurt us the most. How would you communicate differently if you could? Some things are hard to communicate. We need to keep that in perspective because some things are painful. Other times it's the topic's too uncomfortable to talk about, and oftentimes it's difficult to express our emotions to people we don't know. We need to know how to manage a difficult conversation. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you guys to 3 different strategies. First is the Stone's 5-step process. We first want to sort out the 3 necessary conversations that are taking place. We then want to determine if the benefits of confrontation or if they're all negative. We need to start from the 3rd story. We need to explore their story while understanding our own, and we need to avoid blaming each other. Once that's taken care of, we want to begin the problem-solving step. Another form of handling difficult conversations is through Leibov's caring feedback. We need to state our purpose in positive terms. We need to state the consequences that we have for ourselves. We need to use a touch of empathy when communicating with one another. We also want to state our request in clear terms. We need to state the situation and specific behaviors in clear and simple terms. We also want to make dialogue that encourages responsive feedback between the 2 parties. And the 3rd and final form of scenarios that we can use are called the Crawford's workplace issues. And we use these need to talk scenarios. We need to agree on finding a resolution, hear the other party's explanation. We need to describe the purpose of the situation that's occurring. We need to describe the behaviors that are taking place, listen to the other party's reaction. We need to make clear the focus is on communication and continuing to communicate with one another. You also want to follow up the discussion by collaboratively working with one another to continue to resolve the issue. We can now see, by understanding the basics of communication, and that we are taking steps in the right direction to clear up our communication. By analyzing the way we approach conflict and the way we resolve our issues, we are able to employ the necessary steps to in fact fix the issue of not providing clear information to one another through our communication. By doing so, we are happier people and happier relationships. Thank you for your time and have a good night.